Did you know there's a place in Florida where wild horses and even bison roam free? Plus, a miniature rainforest inside a massive sinkhole. Today, we're going to be exploring two unique natural wonders in Gainesville that you won't find anywhere else in Florida. First, there's Payne's Prairie, and it's unlike any other state park in Florida. This 23,000-acre preserve is home to some of the most incredible wildlife you can see in the state. Visitors can hike trails that cut through open prairies where wild Spanish horses and bison graze. You can also climb observation towers with sweeping views of the grasslands and spot everything from alligators to over 300 species of birds. And just a short drive away, you can also descend into the Devil's Millhopper, which is a massive sinkhole with its very own rainforest-like ecosystem. Payne's Prairie is a 22,000-acre preserve just south of Gainesville, right off Highway 441. It's about an hour and a half from both Orlando and Jacksonville, and just under 2 hours from Tampa. The park is open every day from 8 a.m. to sunset, and admission is only $6 per vehicle. We arrived shortly after the gates opened on a very foggy Sunday morning, and since the visitor center wasn't open until 9, we decided to start our day with the observation tower, just a short 5-minute walk away.
Just walking into these giant spider webs. Wow.
The tower is about 50 feet high and 5 stories tall. The first floor of the tower is wheelchair accessible, but you'll need to climb stairs in order to reach the other levels. From the top, you'll get sweeping views of the prairie's grasslands and wetlands. On clear days, you can see for miles, but the fog gave it this really cool, moody atmosphere, although it did make it harder to see the wildlife in the distance. It is quiet, peaceful, and felt like the prairie was just waking up. Well, most of it. We hung out at the tower until about 9 a.m. when the visitor center opened and then made our way over. On our way over, we walked to the short Wacahoota Trail. It's less than a half mile, and it winds through a shady oak hammock. It's a quick, scenic add-on if you're already visiting the visitor center. The visitor center is also really nice, and honestly, probably one of the nicest visitor centers I've seen in a state park in Florida. Inside, you'll find a large observation window that looks right out into the prairie, complete with spotting scopes to help you scan for wildlife. There are also exhibits showcasing the different animals that live here, plus a small theater where you can learn about the preserve's history and ecosystem. And like most of the best parks, there are friendly volunteers and rangers on hand to answer questions and help point you in the right direction. From the visitor center, we made our way out to Cone's Dike Trail, which begins just behind the building. To get onto the trail, you'll pass through a narrow fence, and it's designed so that people can walk through, but the animals can't. So we are right now on the Cone's Dike Trail, which is 8 miles round trip.
Yeah, well, we don't have to do the whole thing.
Yeah, so we're gonna walk a little bit of it because it walks right against the prairie here. So they said this is one of the best places to be able to see any of the bison or horses. We already see a horse just right over there. The path takes you right into the open grasslands where bison, cattle, wild horses, and even alligators roam free. This is one of the best places in the park to really experience the heart of the prairie. We walked about a mile in before turning back, and almost right away we spotted another group of wild horses grazing in the distance. It really drives home how unique Payne's Prairie really is. There just isn't many places in Florida where you can share a trail with animals like these. We didn't spot any bison at this time, but according to one of the park volunteers, there's a herd of around 40 to 50 that roam around the prairie. With so much open space, though, sightings are never guaranteed. The guide at the visitor center told us that there's about 45 bison that live here, and they have about 50,000 acres of land to roam, so you really just don't know if you're going to have a chance to see them while you're here. So it is a really big stroke of luck if you do see them, because they do have so much land to be able to kind of roam around. Same thing with the horses. They don't quite know how many horses live on the prairie. He mentioned that they've tried to count them several times, but because they just move around so often, they don't really have a really good head count as to how many horses or bison really live here. Next, we drove about 5 minutes down the road to the Bolen Bluff Trail, which has its own separate entrance.
Now we're here.
There's an honor pay station here, but you don't need to pay again if you've already covered admission at the main entrance. The trail is about 2.5 miles round trip, and it starts with a shady loop that winds through a hardwood forest and palm hammock.
That's a pretty tree.
And then a spur trail branches off into the prairie.
Does that kind of look like an observation tower out there?
It does, yeah.
I think we're almost there.
We're almost there.
Prairie section just goes on forever.
I know, it's deceptively long. Like, you look at it and you're like, oh, that doesn't look so far to the observation tower. And then, 20 minutes later, you're still walking. So. At the end of that spur, there's a small observation tower where you might spot wild horses or even bison. We didn't see any during our visit, so at first we felt like this hike might just end up being a bust.
Okay, so we were gonna go head back to the trail, but there's a couple of colts on the trail. If you look down that way, then we can't go any further because there's colts on the trail, and they don't look like they're moving.
But on the way back, right in the middle of the woods, we ran into a herd of wild Spanish horses, including a few babies, completely blocking the path. It must have been too hot to be out on the prairie, and they were just hanging out in the cooler shade of the forest. We stood there quietly and watched them from a distance for a few minutes before turning back and looping back the way we came. From Bolen Bluff, it was just a short drive down Highway 441 to the Ecopassage Observation Boardwalk. This wooden boardwalk stretches about 500 feet out into the prairie, giving you a really great vantage point for spotting wildlife. The Ecopassage itself was built back in 2000, raising the highway so that snakes, gators, and other animals could safely pass underneath instead of trying to cross the busy road. When we visited, the highlight was right at the end of the boardwalk. There was this massive gator lounging in the water, reminding us just who really runs the prairie. From the Ecopassage, it's about a 10-minute drive over to Chua Trail. This is a 3-mile round-trip hike, and it's one of the most popular spots in the park. This is another separate entrance for the park that also uses the honor pay system. But like Bolen Bluff, if you already paid at the main entrance, then you don't need to pay again. The trail starts with a paved path that winds through ancient oaks and plum trees. Along the way, you'll pass under a historic archway, which is actually the remnants of a railway trestle from the old Florida Southern Railroad. Not far from that, the trail actually takes you through a barn that dates back to the 1600s, when this area was once the site of a Spanish cattle ranch. From there, the trail opens up to the prairie again, where bison, horses, and alligators all roam freely. The elevated boardwalk circles around Alligators Sink, which is a massive sinkhole, and continues into the upper sink where water drains into the Floridian aquifer. This stretch of boardwalk is hands down the best place in the park to see alligators, sometimes dozens at a time, along with wading birds, turtles, and other wildlife. It's an incredible spot to watch the prairie come alive, but you are close to the animals here, so it's important to stay on the trail and give them their space. The boardwalk ends after about a half mile, but the trail does continue on into the prairie for those who want to see even more wildlife. But for us, the heat was settling in, and since we had one more stop planned, we turned around just after the boardwalk.
So what'd you think of Payne's Prairie?
It's really cool. I really enjoyed being able to see all the wild horses. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't see any bison today, but we did get to see a lot of wild horses, which was amazing. So just for that, I feel like it was worth the trip.
After leaving Chua, we drove about 30 minutes north to Devil's Millhopper Geological State Park. The main feature here is a massive sinkhole that's 500 feet across and 120 feet deep. There's a nature trail that circles the rim, but the highlight is a wooden staircase that winds down 132 steps to an observation deck at the bottom. As you descend, you'll hear the sound of running water and see several small waterfalls cascading down the limestone walls. The ecosystem down here is completely different from the surrounding area, with dense, lush vegetation that makes it feel like you stepped into a miniature rainforest. The name Devil's Millhopper comes from old legends. Early settlers thought the funnel shape resembled a grain hopper. And since animal bones and skeletons were found at the bottom, locals said that the devil must be using it to feed souls into hell. In reality, the site is a geological treasure, designated as a National Natural Landmark in 1976. Researchers have studied the sinkhole for decades. Fossilized shark teeth, marine shells, and even the remains of extinct land animals have all been discovered here, offering a simple glimpse into Florida's natural history. On its own, Devil's Millhopper might not be worth a long drive to Gainesville, but if you're already visiting Payne's Prairie, it's a fantastic add-on that gives you a completely different side of Florida's landscape. Payne's Prairie and Devil's Millhopper are two of the most unique natural areas that you can explore in Florida. From wild horses and alligators out in the prairie to the lush rainforest ecosystem inside a giant sinkhole. This area has a little bit of everything. If you found any of this information helpful, I would love it if you would hit that like button and subscribe if you would love to discover more incredible things to do in Florida and beyond. We create a new video every week, and the best way to be able to see them is by subscribing. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to my channel members. You guys help keep this channel going, and we couldn't be more thankful. If you would like to help support what we do here and get exclusive emotes, early access to our videos, and more, click the link in the video description for more details. If you're looking for even more things to do in the area, Ocala National Forest is just a short drive away, and I created a video on its 5 incredible springs that just popped up on the screen. Definitely something you won't want to miss. Until next time.